The room had been tense all morning, filled with strategy maps, whispered calculations, and the low hum of consoles tracking operations across continents. When the question landed, most expected a laugh, a shrug, maybe a light-hearted dodge. But the woman at the table didn't flinch. She looked him straight in the eye and answered. And in that moment, the entire war room froze. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you rewatching from. I love knowing who is listening. Her name was Commander Livia Kane, a shadow of a name whispered in classified reports and mission logs few could read. Yet here she was, in plain uniform, surrounded by men and women of high rank. Some decades older and steeped in tradition, all of whom underestimated the calm she carried in her chest. She had fought battles others would never know existed, places maps didn't fully reach, against enemies whose names were barely spoken aloud. 2 decades of operations, countless missions, and decisions that could weigh like lead on any mortal soul. The Admiral expected a joke or a polite deflection. Instead, Livia gave a number concise, factual, without pride, without apology. The war room collectively inhaled. Not a single person broke the sudden silence. The only sounds were the soft clicks of keyboards and the distant murmur of tactical feeds. She thought she would be invisible here. She was wrong. The morning had begun like any other. Reports of insurgent movements. Drone footage flickering across screens, analysts presenting probabilities with cautious optimism. Yet the tension in the room was palpable, heavier than normal, as if every person present carried a personal stake in a war that felt simultaneously distant and immediate. Livia had spent hours reviewing intelligence, overlaying coordinates, calculating options that were unthinkable to most. She had made decisions before breakfast that would determine lives before noon. And yet, here she was, questioned about something so personal. The Admiral smiled, expecting jest, and it was as though the room itself had paused, waiting for her response. Her hands rested lightly on the table, but beneath them, her fingers flexed with tension. She remembered each mission, each face, each choice. The weight of responsibility was familiar, but human vulnerability always lingered close by. When she spoke, it was quiet, controlled, clear. 17 confirmed, she said. The room went still. Whispers flickered through the assembled officers like shadows of wind over water. Some faces turned pale, not in fear, but in recognition. A few jaws tightened. One young lieutenant's eyes widened, mouth opening, closing again as he struggled to comprehend. 17. 17 was more than a number. It was a ledger of morality, precision, and necessity. Each tally marked a moment of moral reckoning, a decision that blurred the lines between right and wrong. Livia could feel the weight of each name, each life taken in order to protect countless others. The Admiral leaned forward, removing the smile that had seemed effortless moments before. 17, he murmured. And you're still here. She nodded, almost imperceptibly, knowing the truth behind the words. Surviving this long, in this role, required more than skill. It required judgment, restraint, the ability to weigh lives against consequences and choose what must be done, not what could be celebrated. Her team, scattered across classified operations, trusted her implicitly. They knew that in the chaos of combat, her decisions saved lives not for glory, but because someone had to. Her heart carried the invisible scars, and yet she bore them with quiet dignity. Choosing to remain present, functional, human, minutes stretched, and then murmurs began. Analysts whispered among themselves. A senior officer cleared his throat. Another shifted papers nervously. The air was thick, charged with a blend of awe and unease. Some questioned the morality, others the necessity. Livia didn't answer them. Some questions weren't for discussion, they were for reflection. The Admiral finally broke the silence. Your experience, your judgment, it's invaluable. She felt a subtle relief, not for recognition, but for understanding. They understood in that brief moment what her quiet professionalism had always implied, that the measure of a warrior is-T in the tally of kills, but in the lives they preserve, the missions they complete, and the responsibility they accept without hesitation. Later, after the meeting adjourned and the war room emptied, Livia stayed behind for a moment. She stared at the map table, tracing lines of operations with her finger. Outside, sunlight fractured through blinds, dust motes floating in golden beams. Silence enveloped her. She allowed herself a deep breath, letting the tension dissolve. The question had been trivial, a joke meant to test familiarity or perhaps ease the mood. But her answer had conveyed the truth that few could fully comprehend. Responsibility wasn't a jest, and courage wasn't loud. It was quiet, heavy, absolute. Because strength isn't measured by the number of lives taken, but by the lives preserved, the decisions borne, and the integrity maintained when no one is watching. As she left the war room, the echo of the Admiral's question lingered. The sunlight followed her, painting the floor with patterns of reflection and resolve. And somewhere in the stillness, the unspoken truth settled. The most dangerous warriors are not those who boast but those who act, silently, decisively, and morally, even when the world doesn't notice. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe to Whispered Words for more stories of unseen courage, quiet strength, and the heroes whose deeds resonate long after the war room has emptied.